It could amount to the perfect storm. 2 hurricanes days away from potential landfall in Florida. How the state is preparing.
Plus, under financial strain, Superstorm Sandy cost taxpayers $50 billion. How would the debt-strapped U.S. pay for another major response effort?
And what did we learn from Superstorm Sandy? Will the historic East Coast disaster help Florida residents weather these impending hurricanes a little easier?
You're watching the World News Network this Thursday, May 16th, 2013. Here's what's making news tonight. Hello, I'm Gil Williams. It's too early to pinpoint an exact track on either hurricane, but both continue to gain speed as they move through the Atlantic. According to the National Hurricane Center, Hurricanes Lay and Kirk, both Category 1 storms, are several days away from the eastern seaboard. Earlier today, the president issued a pre-disaster declaration ahead of Hurricane Lay for the state of Florida. Our team of reporters is tracking these storms and the preparations ahead of any potential landfall. Let's start in the WNN Weather Lab with Chief Meteorologist Joanne Davis. Joe, what kind of effects could we feel here on the East Coast?
Well, Gil, that depends on how the storms continue to track over the next few days. The pressures are dropping and conditions are conducive for a rapid increase in size and strength. Our models indicate potential landfall somewhere in Florida within the next 3 days. Right now, the cone of uncertainty puts Hurricane Lay on Florida's eastern coast as Hurricane Kirk eyes Cuba before heading towards the Gulf of Mexico. We'll get greater clarity after the hurricane hunters fly into the eye of both storms. Right now, there are no hurricane watches or warnings for the eastern part of the U.S. Let's turn now to WNN's Brooke Lotz at the Florida State Emergency Operations Center in Tallahassee. Brooke, what is the state doing in preparation for these storms?
Joe, the State Emergency Operations Center is up and running. As you know, Florida is well versed in hurricane planning and response, but the state isn't taking any chances with dual hurricanes now threatening both coasts. Florida Governor Rick Scott issued an emergency declaration ahead of Lay earlier today. That basically means the state is operating under a state of emergency, with the emergency management community implementing its plans to protect the communities, infrastructure, and general welfare of the state. Florida National Guard has also been activated. Now, while all of this is generally taking place behind the scenes, Florida residents are preparing for these storms as well. We haven't seen many people board up their homes as of yet, but stores are reporting a run on bottled water, plywood, generators, and other supplies. Evacuation orders aren't expected until hurricane watches and warnings are issued. Gil, Georgia, and South Carolina are taking similar precautions. For now, that's the latest from Florida.
Thanks, Brooke. If these hurricanes continue to gain strength and strike the East Coast, we could be looking at another very costly disaster, not even a year after Superstorm Sandy devastated the Northeast. As we operate without a national budget and carry a $16 trillion and growing national debt, how are we going to pay for another major disaster response effort? WNN's Angie DeWile joins us now from the newsroom with that. Angie?
Gil, that's a good question. According to a National Hurricane Center report, Sandy cost taxpayers over $50 billion. Sandy was the deadliest hurricane to hit the northeastern U.S. in 40 years and the second costliest in our nation's history. In late October, Sandy flooded New York City's subway system and left more than 2 million people in the state without power. New Jersey was also hard hit and is still recovering. Overall, more than 650,000 U.S. homes were damaged or destroyed, while more than 8 million customers lost power. While FEMA is in charge of hurricane response, the military is often asked for assistance. This brings up another important consideration: sequestration. Right now, the military is responding to $43 billion in cuts through the end of this fiscal year. So if they are called upon in another disaster response, it's unclear how that will work. However, Gil, FEMA and the emergency management community say they are prepared and ready to meet whatever needs Hurricanes Lay and Kirk bring.
Thanks, Angie. While the Sandy response effort was very costly, public reports also called it very slow. This is a major concern as Florida prepares to bear the brunt of Hurricanes Lay and Kirk. So what has the government learned from Sandy? WNN's Leon Moore joins us now with a closer look at that. Leon?
Well, Gil, the official White House report is not yet finalized. However, we do expect to hear a lot of talk about the need for a more timely and better coordinated response. Because Sandy happened days before the presidential election, the message of a slow response was slow to make it to the mainstream media. But we have learned a major issue following Sandy, as Angie just mentioned, was the lack of power and delays in fuel deliveries. This was especially tough when a subsequent snowstorm blew through hurricane-ravaged New York City and New Jersey. The bottom line is this: the people were freezing and didn't have power. Another major issue was the confusion over responder roles and responsibilities in such a large-scale disaster, specifically among local, state, National Guard, and the Department of Defense organizations. Now, Gil, we're watching this. Hopefully, the residents of Florida won't suffer from similar mistakes made during Sandy. Now, it remains to be seen if the lessons learned from that storm will help those in Florida. Back to you.
Thanks, Leon. WNN is continuing to track Hurricane Lay and Kirk. Before we go, here is one last look at their expected tracks. Right now, early predictions have these hurricanes heading towards Florida. However, it is too early to know where they may make landfall. WNN will bring you updates as they come into our newsroom. For the World News Network, I'm Gil Williams.